I am the contrarian, and this is my world.
Hi, I'm Nikhil Pradhan, the assistant editor with Digit, and I'm here to debate on the topic of digital colonization with Rajiv. Now, while digital colonization exists, it is not as much as a threat as everyone makes it out to be, and is pretty much an exaggeration.
All right, so, they do talk about the internet as the holy grail, the thing that has changed the world, the industrial revolution that has come for a second time, the second coming of the machines, the most powerful thing that humankind and mankind has ever gone through. But when you use the power of the net, do you sit down and ever think about the fact that there is a digital divide, there's a gap, there's a difference between way things are happening in the West versus us out here? Is there a monopolization of all the good things, all the data, the big companies, the innovation only coming from that side, and we are just the consumers and the users? If you haven't thought about it, think about it now, because we're about to explore it. True or false, and which way is it going? So where do you stand on this one?
So I do agree that there is a big divide. I mean, the West, or what's referred to as the global North, seems to be controlling the flow of information, and the kind of companies that consumers go towards nowadays, they all come from the West. However, I do not agree with the statement that there seems to be a concerted effort by the West to rule the internet as a whole.
Why would that be that you don't, you agree with the first part of it, you seem to think that this is just something that just happened, it's a coincidence that it happened?
I don't think it's a coincidence, it's more about the nature of the internet. The internet rewards simplicity and efficiency. Okay. And for the first time ever, we have a mode of communication out here which has basically torn down all walls. People are free to do what they want in the internet. The point of entry, the entry cost is very low. And as a result, anyone who enters the internet goes towards the big names, the better names, the best names.
Let's take classic companies, and I know using words like Facebook is a classic company is, really strange because it's not that old, but in the world of the internet, it's classic, it's very old, it's ancient in fact, right? You take new services, new companies that have got a huge, in millions people using them. Again, the innovation seems to have come from the West. Yet the big problem here, and it's ironical, is most of the coding may have happened here in India. Right. Most of the users are here in India and China.
There is a psychological deference to the first mover advantage to the West. I think that generally exists. Because companies like Instagram are doing well in the West, we'll probably have more people from India gravitating to a service like Instagram. I mean, we have Indian companies. We have a brilliant company like Zomato, who does a great job with its app. But then Zomato is not the first of its kind. We wanted an Indian solution to what another app probably was in the US, and that is Zomato. Zomato does a good job.
Right. If any of you out there right now have access to your phone or tablet, take a look at the last 10 apps that were most used, or go to iOS or Android or Windows and take a look at the top 100 apps. Yeah. It's incredible that most of them seem to come from one power center. Is this deliberate?
When you're looking at it from a macro point of view, it may look like there's this trend, which points towards a certain force asking you to, forming the map which you have to follow, forming the routes that you have to follow. I don't think it really points towards a pattern that has got negative meaning. I think it points towards a pattern, like I said earlier, points towards a pattern that people just want better apps, better services, more efficient apps, efficient
So you're basically
services.
saying that in India you can't have better apps, you can't have better services in India itself. From local people, you will gravitate towards the West, which is perceived to be a better app.
In a lot of cases, yes, we are doing a great job. But we seem to have lost touch with innovation, or in terms of at least the apps and the internet, we seem to follow what people elsewhere want, and that's why we want to design our new products based on what other people want or what other services have already been created. So there seems to be this lack of innovation. That's very true.
Okay, let's get down to the thing that really riles me up. In fact, let me control my emotion before I even come up with it, because I tend to get very emotional. Yeah. We are the ones, when a company gets a company which is 1 year old gets valued for $2 billion. It's the user base from India and China that gives them that valuation. We get nothing from it, right? So what's the problem here? I mean, are we not innovative enough? Are people taking advantage of the fact that we are pretty foolish in the way that I mean, what is it? It's the herd instinct that is really the big problem here, that we'll follow anybody?
I think for a long time, we've been following whatever the West's been doing. So we've been liking the same iPhones, we've been liking the same Galaxy S3s and S4s that's done well in the West. But I think now, Windows Phone is a pretty big, it's very important for Microsoft, as we all know. Now, it's very interesting that now, because of India and because of Windows Phone's popularity in the low-end budget segment, that Microsoft is actually changing its entire strategy around that.
Most people in India usually use this, either the perennially nascent, that we are a nation that is always about to. Okay, we'll remain perennially nascent this way, right? The second part is the one where it's the easy go-to solution. Instagram gives the entire world a particular service, so the company that will do it in India will be the one that will give Indian customized content. I'm sorry, but that's not the way we'll be able to change this power shift. Then we'll only have 10 or 15 Indian custom content companies that will drive value and have something here. When do we get an Indian app, an Indian service, an Indian overall 360-degree ecosystem that the rest of the world will use? That's when the power shift will actually, forget the shift, it may start to balance a little. Why isn't that happening?
Currently, we are building content and we are building services for platforms that have originated from somewhere else, which means that they have been designed from the very point of inception, looking at a certain person, looking at a certain user. Now, that user, initially Android and iOS, they were designed for an American user. Once we have a platform that is our own, that we can call our very own, I think that is when we can probably expect all these ancillary services and all of that to also be engendered from within, from within us, from Indian innovators.
You know, it may be a fantasy to say it when you say whoever controls the internet controls the rest of the world, but it's also very true now. I mean, it goes far deeper than just the sentence can actually, whatever images it conjures up are not enough to do the kind of damage it can, that when you have control over the internet and you create great value from the internet, you're not going to give that up. Right. Do you really see that change?
In this case, when we talk about the Indian government taking an interest in what's happening inside,
it is to their benefit eventually, right?
Yeah, it is to their benefit, but I think it's also a slippery slope in that way. I think because the reason why the internet has done so well and why so many people have flocked to the internet without any kind of government mandated anything.
Isn't that a myth? I mean, we live in a world where we think the internet is completely free, but it isn't really. I mean, it still has so much happening at the back that it's almost impossible to really know. I mean, to say it's a slippery slope for the Indian government to get involved is kind of a little utopian.
That's what. So it may sound naive, but the fact is there are certain things in life that need to be ideologically pure. I think democracy is one, and I think the internet is another. Okay. I'm a vociferous proponent of a free internet, and the idea of the internet is it should be utopian, because unless you have a utopian ideal, you'll never move towards even coming somewhere close to that. The thing is that the entire concept of disruption on the internet is so great. That's why it's so great, because companies are being founded on the weaknesses of other companies, that we will give you something that this guy doesn't give you.
Either gives or overgives, so that we will not force you to do that,
exactly.
Right?
So I think the entire concept of disruption comes from that ideological nature of the internet, that there will always be someone better, more efficient, faster for you.
Okay, all right. So I have quick, 2 or 3 quick fire questions, single sentence answers or single word.
Yeah.
Give me one piece of advice that could start the bridging of this digital gap. That would be?
don't ape the West. I guess that would be the first thing.
Okay, okay, and do something disruptive. You already gave that one, right?
exactly.
Okay. How comfortable are you with the fact that all your private data and the money that is being made, all that power lies elsewhere, especially in one sweet spot in the entire world?
I'm absolutely not comfortable with that at all. But
how much of a personal effort have you put in not to do what everybody else is doing?
I
Can you name 2 apps that you use in India that have international content?
Oh, I mean, I use Flipboard, which is pretty much, I use a lot of the feeds from Flipboard, so which is obviously all international content.
And the last and most important one, the big question right now is, that's the camera for you.
Okay.
Okay, so turn to that camera and tell us, when do you think this entire power shift will change and why?
I think it's coming. I think within the next decade, we will most certainly see a more Indian internet, an internet that's more geared towards Indian users, and not just for the sake of being maybe in a different language or Indian languages, but more towards having services and ideas that take into account what it is that we want within our country and what it is us as Indians probably want in an internet or a service.
So whether it's nationalistic, just pride that is hurt, or just ego that is really, really hurting, take all these emotions and think about it. Every single thing you do in your computing world, in the mobility space, on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop, are you just going with the herd? Is it because everybody else does it, so do you? You're creating wealth for people that you will never see, never hear, and will never ever get that nationalistic pride that it was created right here. So anybody out there who's sitting right now and saying, I will build the next big thing, make sure you do it in India, the rest of the world. We'll see you next week right here on The Contrarian. Thank you, Nikhil. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I am the contrarian, and this is my world.